Hi, this is Bob Papa, voice of the New York Football Giants, and this is the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. Go get 'em, guys.
Welcome back, Giants fans, to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast in association with Andy's Man Club. Lads, it's okay to talk. This time we are 100% British, but absolutely still 100% Giants. Kev's on dad duties, so can't make it tonight. So I'm joined by Shane and producer Craig. And with Super Bowl 58 in the books, we're back for 2024, refreshed, revamped, and ready to dive into free agency, which is now less than a month away. And we thought, what better way to kick off this NFL year than to take a look at all of our pending free agents that's coming up for you today. Lads, how are we doing? Good to be back.
Yeah, good to be back. Been off for a few weeks, had different things going on and that, but it's good to get on and chat. And like the comments saying in the chat at the minute about the new intro, it was bang on, and some absolutely fantastic memories just watching back through that intro coming on, and looking forward to looking ahead now to 2024 for the New York Giants and for ourselves as well, and making more memories.
Yeah, absolutely. The intro's been in the works for a few weeks, and it's been quite good fun to try and give ourselves a little bit of a revamped look and feel. As you can see, this is new, the intro's new, the music's new, and we were honoured to have the voice of the New York Football Giants, Bob Papa, do a recording for us for that intro. So a massive thank you to Bob for that.
Absolutely. I mean, can't get more Giants than the voice of Bob Papa, right? But yeah, good to be back. Great to be back. Obviously, we've had a week off, sort of decompress after the season. And yeah, get this all ready for the new year. And there was a couple of nights where me and you spent a fair while going through video edits and music, but it's all worth it in the end. And yeah, it's turned out great, and we love it. And we hope that our listeners and viewers love the new intro as much as we do. But to celebrate the beginning of the new league year, for a limited time as well, you can get yourself 10% off our entire merchandise range. That's our entire merchandise range. Head over to our Etsy shop, etsy.com/UK/shop/Big Blue UK IRL, because the address I've been throwing out there for the last 9-10 months has been completely wrong. So that's my bad. I realised that today. So yeah, with the links, the link's going to be in the description. So head on over there and check us out. After the show tonight, we're going to be putting a 10% discount on there for anyone who wants to go in there and buy some merchandise, and that's going to be on there until next Wednesday, I believe. So yeah, grab yourself some podcast merch and show us some love. As usual, let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'll read out as many as we can as well throughout the pod tonight. So get those comments coming in. Before we get into free agency, though, as predicted by me, this past weekend saw Kansas City go back to back, beating the 49ers in the Super Bowl in Las Vegas in overtime, which was, it wasn't the best overall game, but it was definitely entertaining. And let's face it, you can never write off Patrick Mahomes, especially in overtime. His game-winning touchdown drive coming after the Chiefs came back from a 10-point deficit for the third time in the Super Bowl to lift the Lombardi Trophy. Shane, have you watched the game? What did you make of it if you did?
No, I didn't watch it. I knew Chiefs was going to win, and it gets a little bit boring after a bit. Like I was saying to my mates the weekend, one of the things that people with American football bang on about is, oh yeah, you got the draft, and it means the same teams don't win all the time. But Chiefs has now won. Is it Chiefs and Patriots in the last 10 years have won half the Super Bowls or something? And it's a bit
Chiefs won 3 of the last 5.
yeah, so I wasn't in the mood to watch them win it, to be honest with you. Plus, I was back at work on Monday for my first day back after being on leave, so I didn't want to go back to that tired, etc. Obviously, I will say just before we went on there, there's obviously the news come out about the incidents happening in Kansas City during their parade. So although obviously I don't want to see them winning the Super Bowl, I do hope that all their fans and anyone that was in attendance there is well, and that nothing too serious has happened to anybody.
Yeah, 100% echo that. Looking at the news that's come out on Twitter in the last sort of 10 minutes, so there's 10 victims been confirmed. Whether they're alive or not is another question, but we hope they all make a full recovery, and hopefully the people that are responsible for this get the justice they deserve. But yeah, thoughts obviously go out to those all in Kansas City that have been affected by this, because it's not a way you want to end a good a season the way you won back-to-back trophies. So yeah, it's a bit of a rubbish way to end the season. But Craig, what did you make of the game?
Yeah, we were talking about it. I mean, myself and you were back and forth through most of the game, weren't we? As we were watching it separately. I was watching it at home with my wife, and I described it as a game for the purists. If you were a Taylor Swift fan and you tuned in to watch a high-scoring, entertaining game with the occasional glimpse of the lady herself, you were probably slightly disappointed, because for the majority of it, it was more about the tactical side. Now, if you're like myself, who really enjoys the tactical side of the NFL, and it's one of the reasons that you enjoy watching games, you probably really did enjoy it. For all intents purposes, I was sort of talking to Colin from the Irish NFL show on Twitter. We were just having a little back and forth. He was rounding up at the end of each quarter, and we were talking about the 49ers defense and just how good they were, and they seemed to know every play before it happened, and it got through to that fourth quarter, and it all just went down the toilet essentially, and they just slowly started to creak and break. And it comes out today that Kyle Shanahan has fired Steve Wilkes as DC in San Fran. So you can kind of see why. It's probably slightly harsh. You've got all the way there with a relatively stout defense, but the tide turned and you could just feel it going. And then once Kansas kind of really had the bit between their teeth and the 49ers made that ridiculous decision to receive the ball first in overtime, you could kind of turn it off there and go, oh, okay, that's it, it's done. But props to McCole Hardman for catching that winning touchdown at the end. Obviously, he was at the Jets at the beginning of the season, went to Kansas City, and has himself a ring now. So fair play to him. I'll give you one, Dan.
He's got two rings now, hasn't he? Because he was on the team last year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a question for you, Dan. Thoughts on the halftime Usher performance?
I think you can tell by my face. I mean, Usher's a great artist, and he's obviously got millions of fans worldwide. So, and he is a big enough artist to be able to headline the halftime show at the Super Bowl. Tying the fact that he's got a residency in Vegas, I'm not surprised. In all honesty, I think the two words that came to mind on the night were absolute wank. It wasn't for me.
It got better when Luda and Little John came on.
It did get better when Ludacris and Little John and Alicia Keys came on, absolutely, but it just wasn't for me.
Was it Slater who tweeted out saying it was one of the best Super Bowl halftime shows or something?
I saw a lot of people did like it. It just did nothing for me. And Anna enjoyed it. She quite likes Usher, so she enjoyed it. But yeah, it did nothing for me.
Yeah, see, I'm not and never have been an Usher fan, so it was never going to be for me.
There you go. Super Bowl performances peaked with Dre, Snoop, and Eminem. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, you never beat that.
At LA 2 years ago, mate. Don't forget 50 Cent in there as well, yeah.
Yeah, and Mary J. Blige. No.
Yep.
It was,
and
wasn't it?
Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar.
Yes. Slayton tweeted out, "Yeah, that's the best halftime show I've seen. Boy went crazy."
Nah, come on, Slayton. You don't know
It'll,
what you're
it'll
talking
be
about,
the
mate.
best. It'll be the best one until next year when the rumored Little Wayne is the halftime act in New Orleans.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
We'll
I think
excited when we get him on the show.
but I mean, the fact that 60 is in San Francisco as well makes me think maybe somebody or a band of our taste, Craig, would potentially headline the Super Bowl show and the halftime show at the Super Bowl 60.
Don't
You know,
tease
being
me.
from that San Francisco Bay Area, you know.
Don't tease me.
So for those that don't know, Metallica, yeah. But there we go. We'll concentrate on that next year. But I mean, before we move on about off the Super Bowl, obviously Mahomes, he's now got 3 rings. And like I said, you can never write him off. And when it got to overtime, I think, you know, straight away I was like, yeah, Chiefs have won this regardless of who receives the ball. And obviously then the fact that the Niners decided to receive the ball rather than defer as well. It was always set up for the Chiefs to win in overtime. But do you think Mahomes can be considered amongst the best to have ever played now, considering he's got 3 rings? Shane?
I mean, I don't think you can have the conversations till the players done it all and retired. Personally, like I think it's a little bit premature to call someone a GOAT when they've still got 10, 15 years of their career ahead of them. You know, if we're having the conversation 10 years time and he's got 9 or 10 Super Bowls, then yeah, potentially, most likely. But I think when someone's still got a good 10 plus years of their career left, it's a little bit too soon to say.
Yeah, you probably spot on there. To be fair, you know, he's definitely made a fool out of Troy Aikman. His tweet from a couple of years ago about, you know, get Mahomes to talk to me when he's got as many rings as I do. He does. So I think that conversation can happen now. But you know, he's still got a fair way to go to Brady. One thing that Brady had was longevity. He lasted all the way to the end of his career. Can Patrick Mahomes do that? More than likely. But all it takes is one bad injury to happen, and it could all come crashing down. So it is slightly premature. You know, like Shane said, once the career's over, then you can look back at it and you can see that, you know, there'll be wrinkles there. But if he carries on the same trajectory, then he will, won't he? You will speak about him like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you know, his place in the Pro Football Hall of Fame is cemented. You know, he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt, when it comes around to that. But you know, there are plenty of names, you know, that are sort of considered amongst the greatest of all time, and he's not quite at that level yet, in my opinion. He's not far away, don't get me wrong, but he's not quite at that level, even though he has 3 rings. You know, he's only 28, so he's still got a long career ahead of him, barring any horrendous injuries, which obviously we hope he doesn't get, because he is, at the end of the day, entertaining, albeit sometimes a little bit boring because they always seem to win. There we go. But and one last thing as well, what's Kyle Shanahan got to do to hold on to a lead in the Super Bowl? Because he can't seem to do it. You couldn't do it against the Patriots, and he couldn't do it again this week, just gone against the Chiefs. So, you know, I think maybe third time's a charm for him.
If he gets to go back there again.
What's the statistic?
What's the statistic? Most quarterbacks will be one and done in the Super Bowl. Obviously, the domination of Brady and Mahomes isn't going to help that stat, but
no. Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Kyle Shanahan to get back there. It's going to be tough for, obviously, Brock Purdy and the Niners had a great season. It's going to be tough to replicate that next year. They are currently the favourites to win the Super Bowl next year. I think it's at 5-1, which I think is mental to have them put in as favourites already. But the Chiefs are going to be going for the three-peat because, you know, you can never write off Mahomes, and that confidence is there. And when you've got a player like Travis Kelce on your offense as well, and you've got some nasty players like Chris Jones on your defense as well, then you can't really complain. The Chiefs are currently second favourites behind the Niners to win it all in New Orleans next year at 7-1. The Giants, on the other hand, rank outsiders at 125-1. Only 3 other teams are ranked, well, have a longer odds than they do. You can get the Bears at 40-1. You can get the Jets at 28-1 even, but the Giants 125-1 as it stands currently on. I think it's on Bet365, which is quite funny. A little bit tempting to put a little bit of money on that because, stranger things have happened. Look at what happened here a few years ago. Leicester won the league at 5,000-1. So you never know. There we go. That anything can happen. But right, Super Bowl done. It's in the bag. It's in the books. 2023 is in the bag. It's in the books. Let's move on to 2024. On to any Giants business. First up, there has been plenty of news in the 2 weeks that we have been gone. I know it has been 2 weeks. It's been a long 2 weeks. It's felt that as well. We've kind of said last week, it's felt like ages since we've done this. But, we're back and we're glad to be back. Shane, let's start with the new DC.
Yeah, so on the 7th of February, the Giants did announce that Shane Bowen has been signed to take the vacant defensive coordinator position. Some chatter about kind of how many times they were not rejected, but maybe that it was their 3rd or their 4th choice option that they ended up getting. But Bowen was the Titans DC for the last 3 years, had the number 1 defense in red zone scoring with a 37.7% of drives ending in a touchdown. Goal-to-goal scoring with 42.9% resulted in a touchdown and 3rd down conversion rate in the red zone, which was 23.4%. And they were also ranked 2nd in inside the 30 touchdown efficiency and opponent 3rd and short conversions. Now, during his tenure in Tennessee, Titans surrendered 89.7 rushing yards per game, which is the fewest in the NFL. Plus, they gave up a league low 3.7 yards per carry. Obviously, the Giants' run defense has been a bit of an issue the last few seasons. We thought we might have shored it up last off season when we brought in the likes of Nacho and Aishawn, but we did still struggle at times. So hopefully Bowen can kind of come in and try and shore up that run defense that's been a bit of an issue for us. It'll be interesting kind of how someone like Dexter Lawrence gets on with him now. I've seen some people saying that Bowen didn't really have much in Tennessee to work with, but obviously he did have Simmons, whose first name escapes me, I think he's one of the top 5 paid D tackles in Jeffrey Simmons. Yes, thank you. So he has got experience working with kind of a little bit of a stud D tackle. So hopefully someone like Dex can progress as he has been doing for the last couple of seasons for us.
Yeah, I did see a post the other day that said that Bowen and Bobby O had many conversations already, that Bobby had reached out to Bowen quite early and wanted to kind of understand what kind of scheme he was going to be playing in, which is always good to see. Happy that Bobby's kind of taking that captaincy and having that green dot last year. He's kind of taken that to heart and really kind of fired through to make sure that he hits the ground running when the season comes.
Yeah, I think obviously he's got big shoes to fill. Obviously with the vacancy being left by Wink, but I like that he plays a 3-4 base defense. It means that it's going to carry on and continue on from where we left off with Wink. Hopefully, he can utilize some defenders more to their strengths than just going mad on blitz as well. Don't get me wrong, blitzing is exciting and it looks good when you are getting pressure on the quarterback. But we were blitzing and not getting pressure on the quarterback as much as we probably should have done. So. Obviously, with everything that's happened with Wink as well, what happened with him, it was always going to be a case of having a new DC. And yeah, obviously he's come in and in all honesty, the Titans D over the last few years hasn't been too bad. So I'm quite happy with Shane Bowen as our new DC. To be honest with you, obviously that's not the only vacancy that's been filled. Craig, we've got a new tight ends coach as well.
Yep. So in another coaching hire from the Tennessee Titans, the Giants have signed Tim Kelly to be their tight end coach. Kelly, who was promoted to offensive coordinator last season, had been with the Titans for 2 years and prior had spent 8 seasons with the Texans, including 3 as their OC. 2022, Kelly worked with the Titans tight ends, working on the first and second down passing game, plus red zone planning as well. That year, Titans tight end room ranked as the 7th best with 952 receiving yards, and rookie Chig Aquano set a rookie franchise record with 450 yards.
Yeah, I mean, is it just me, or is anyone else a little bit concerned that we seem to be picking up all these ex-Titan coaches?
There was
are they the only ones available?
There was another one today as well. I think the Giants announced that they'd picked up someone from the Titans to be their new strength and conditioning director. Can't remember the guy's name.
I saw that. Just call us the New York Titans now, yeah?
I know that there's been some, everyone loves a conspiracy theory, don't they? So Mike Vrabel 2025.
I mean, Dave's has got. Yeah, they go New York Titans. Yeah, Dave's has got a task ahead of him this year in his 3rd year, so he's going to be a little bit on the hot seat, I think, this year to come out and give a good showing. But we've had 2 more hires as well and a few promotions. Shane, want to fill us in on those ones?
Yeah, so the 2 newcomers that we had is Charlie Bullen, who's going to coach the outside linebackers, and then Zach Core, who will be a defensive assistant. Bullen has 11 years of NFL coaching experience and has spent the last 2 years with Illinois. Core, however, has spent the last 4 years with the Titans and the last 3 as an inside linebackers assistant. On the promotion side, offensive coordinator Mike Kafka will have assistant head coach duties added to his role, and then secondary coach Jerome Henderson will be added as a defensive passing game coordinator to his resume. Quarterbacks coach Shay Tierney as well will take on the additional role of offensive passing game coordinator, which I think might be the job title that Kafka had when he was at KC before we sneaked him off him.
Yeah, quite possibly. That rings a bell. So I'm just Googling Charlie Bullen and seeing if he at any point has been affiliated with the Tennessee Titans as well, because it seems to just be a running trend, doesn't it? Yeah, I know he had some time with the Cardinals, 4 years with the Cardinals before going to Illinois. So by the looks of it, no affiliation to the Tennessee Titans. And Miami Dolphins as well, he had experience. So I mean, in all honesty, with new coaches comes, some potentially exciting times, because it's always nice to see fresh eyes and fresh faces and to see maybe a different style of play. I think a new tight ends coach for Darren Waller and Daniel Bellinger is a good move, and I think there's with the linebacker coach as well from Illinois and Zach Core as well. There's some exciting times ahead in terms of new coaches. So yeah, it's a good time to be a Giant. But yeah, what's with the ex-Titans coaches? It just seems to be maybe the Titans are clearing house and everyone's available. That seems to be what's happened, really. Last up then, it's obviously not necessarily Giants related, but But the MetLife was announced to be holding or hosting the World Cup final in 2026, or the New York, New Jersey Stadium, as it will have to be called, because FIFA won't allow for any non-FIFA affiliated sponsors to or anything like that. So it'll be the New York, New Jersey Stadium, which sounds awful. The World Cup final at the New York, New Jersey Stadium.
The New York, New Jersey Stadium, not in New York.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think every single stadium has had to be renamed, hasn't it? Well, all the ones in the US anyway, because of obviously sponsors and advertising, and FIFA only having certain sponsors that use. So one good thing, I suppose, well, potentially good thing about the World Cup final being held, or any World Cup games being held at MetLife, is the stadium will need to replace the artificial turf for grass in order to meet FIFA's standards. So will we see a new field in 2026? No, of course it won't. No. Of course it won't. We'll go back.
I've already read that they go back to turf afterwards.
Yeah, standard.
Because It's the Giants. I do like this one from Holty. How about the medium Pepsi Stadium? That's
Yeah.
good. It's good.
Like
that. Very good.
Any more like ideas of stadium names that they could rename MetLife to instead of the New Jersey Stadium? Throw them in the comments. We'll read them out as they come in.
It was funny because when that was announced, there were so many people who were turning around saying, "Oh, why have they gone for MetLife? It's it's a disgrace of a stadium." And then there was a lot of comparisons to obviously Allegiant Stadium, which held the Super Bowl, which, let's be honest, is a goddamn marvel to look at. But for your average soccer fan, like ourselves who are based in the UK, MetLife is a pretty damn impressive thing. Like, there aren't many of those kind of that looking stadium over here. A lot of them over here still have that old school kind of squared off feel to them. Probably Tottenham being the exception to that rule.
Yeah, I mean,
I think what I remember. Go on.
No, Karen Shane.
I was going to briefly mention it. Obviously, when we went on the stadium tour, when we was over in the States, I think they did say as well they can add extra seats to MetLife, which is one of the reasons why that MetLife might have got it over AT&T because of the ability to be able to add extra seats to it. I don't want anyone saying that second M word on that chat. Thank you very much.
MetLife over Molineux. Interesting.
He just said, "Don't say it."
Yeah.
he said on the chat. He said on the chat. He didn't say on here.
On here, anywhere. I'd rather become a like guru than have that word used around me.
My apologies, Shane. My apologies. But yeah, I mean, you forget as well. I think obviously people look at SoFi and AT&T Stadium as like the real sort of showpiece stadiums in terms of in the league. And I know AT&T, including general admission, which is essentially standard room, it's the capacity is over 100,000. But because of obviously FIFA's rules and stuff like that, they don't allow fans to stand in the stands. So the seated capacity of AT&T Stadium is 80,000, as is SoFi. And people forget that MetLife is the largest all-seated stadium in the NFL. So I'm
83,
not,
isn't it? 83.
yeah. Well, is it 82,500? I think it is.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that it's been given to MetLife, and also the fact it's on the East Coast. The time difference is less to Europe, which, well, let's face it, it's the World Cup. It's the biggest audience is going to be in Europe, because obviously half of the teams that qualify are going to be from Europe. So it's all for the European market as well. So I'm not surprised it was given to MetLife, but that's just my opinion. Alrighty then, on to the main event, our free agents. In a tribute to Keith from the UK Giants as well, because we thought, we loved it last year when he came on. We were talking free agents, so we thought we got to attribute this to him. We're calling this section "Buy or Bus." So, do we spend the money on them and give them a new deal, or do we put them on a bus and bid them farewell? First up, we've got the big decisions, and it's first up is safety Xavier McKinney. So far in his Giants career, he's only 25, but he's a second-round selection in 2020. He's been a constant starter when healthy, playing in 49 or 67 regular season games. He's played 3,154 defensive snaps, recording 2 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 222 tackles, and 9 interceptions. He's been targeted 140 times, allowing 93 catches at a rate of 66%. And he allows a quarterback rating of 72.6 when targeted. Last season's highlights, he finished with an 87.8 PFF grade. His coverage grade of 91.2 topped Jesse Bates of Atlanta to the top spot by 1. So he was ranked number 1 in terms of coverage in the entire league. His 94 tackles were second on the team behind Bobby Okereke, and third in the safety rankings. And finally, he allowed 288 yards, which was just below average at his position. What does his outlook look like? Well, Julian Love, who left the Giants last offseason, signed a 2-year, $12 million deal with the Seahawks. However, Over the Cap projects $13.5 million. PFF predicts 12.5 and Sportrack projects 10.4. If a deal exceeds these projections, however, you could see Joe Shane go, it's not for me. What are your thoughts on McKinney, Shane?
I like him. I like him as a player. He had a really good season. His best season as a Giant, in all fairness, played every snap. Obviously, he's had some time out through injury. I think he got injured in his rookie season, so he didn't play till about week 15, I think it was. And then obviously he had the ATV accident in the bye week last season. I like him, but I think I'm going to be saying bye X, just because I think he's going to be sort of in and around that 14, 15 plus a year he's going to be after. I think it was it last year. I think he changed agents as well to some big time guy who sorted out big deals for other safeties in the league. And I think when you throw in that along with the fact that let's be honest, he's quite clearly pissed. He hasn't been given a contract extension over the last 12 months. So I think there goes any potential hometown discount as well.
Yeah, I've got to agree with the whole hometown discount thing. I think if we want X, we pay X. That's what it will come down to. It will come down to the money side of things. From a player perspective and what he delivers on the field, of course you want him back. I mean, you'd be stupid not to. The man's just played every single defensive snap for the Giants. He was maybe not the best to begin with, but as the season went on, he improved. And by the end, you could argue that he became one of the more valuable pieces on that defense, along with Dex and along with Bobby O. For me, it's a keep. The thing that sways me with X is his age. And yes, you will have to pay for that. But the fact that he's still only 25 is huge. You could have him at his prime for another few seasons at least. And it looks like, a lot of the people in the comments are also kind of on that same train. This is going to cover up our beautiful faces now, but well, just dance. But OT, buy for me as long as the price is right. Keith said, buy for me too. We need X. And Ollie, which seems to be a new name in the comments. So welcome, Ollie. Keep McKinney at around 12 for me. He is the biggest priority of our free agents.
I am still here. I think I've given my opinion on McKinney previously. I've not changed my mind. For me, it's a buy. Yeah, the money's got to be right. I don't want to overpay for him because obviously we've got many other needs elsewhere in other positions, so we can't afford to overpay and potentially have to let somebody else go that we probably should have kept as well. But you look at the stats on screen there, he's number 4 safety in the league, according to PFF. And, he's fully deserving and fully worth that new contract. And it comes down to money. It absolutely comes down to the money. I would absolutely sign it for 12. No brainer, no question, sign him up. For 13, no brainer, sign him up. Any more than that, maybe a little bit too rich. But we'll see what happens, and it'd be a shame to see him go because he is a great talent and he is very young still. And like you said, Craig, we've still got potentially a few more years of him in his prime ahead of him. And he could turn into one of the best safeties in the league. If he's already up there in terms of, I would say, probably top 10, 15 safeties in the league. But we could see him potentially grow and become even better than that. So it'd be a massive, massive shame to see him go. But yeah, for me, it's a buy. That's as in buy and give him the money, not buy as in wave buy to him. All right, producer Craig, who's up next?
Right, next is going to be a more contentious one, in my opinion. Adoree Jackson. Now, Jackson's arrival from the Titans again, Jesus Christ, in 2021 coincided with the arrivals of Leonard Williams and Kenny Golladay. And you could argue that None of the three really set the world alight, but Jackson has stayed for the longest. His issues staying healthy have hampered any real consistency, as he's missed at least 3 games in each season with the Giants, only playing in 36 of the 50 games that he's been eligible for. His stats in the games, he's been targeted 207 times, allowing 125 catches at a rate of 60%. He's had 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, one of which was a pick 6 this past season, and has a QB rating of 85.8 when targeted. Now, last season was Adorie's worst as a Giant and as a pro, as he finished near the bottom in almost all of the highlighted categories on the screen there. His 48.6 PFF grade was 122nd of 133 qualifying cornerbacks. His 45.9 coverage grade ranked the same. His 753 yards allowed was also the joint 8th worst in the league. If you look at his outlook, the likely option here is to move on from the veteran and look elsewhere. There'll be plenty of free agent options who graded much higher last season, who were probably on much less than Jackson, who was the highest paid cornerback in the league per cap hit. So, Dan, thoughts on Adoree Jackson?
I mean, looking at those stats on the screen, on the bus, mate. See you later. I mean, it's obviously it's hard to grade someone based on one season, you know, but that one season says it all about Adoree Jackson. His output is his performances last year were just way off the standard they needed to be, you know, for the highest paid cornerback in the league. And unfortunately, I mean, well, I don't know if it's unfortunately. It's unfortunate for him, maybe not so much. It's so unfortunate for us, but get on the bus, mate. See you later.
Yeah, I mean, when you you knew he had a bad season. Then you look at them stats and you're like, kind of like what the Feagles kind of stats like. I didn't think it was that bad. You know what I mean?
Not even joking. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, you know, I mean, I think when you throw in the stats that are on the screen at the minute, as you say, and you throw in what he was being paid, then, you know, it's going to be a good buy. And let's not forget, Shane Bowen was the DC in Tennessee when they let Adoree go. So that doesn't bode well for Adoree either, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you know, your sentiments are pretty much unanimously agreed with by me and by the comment section. Holty, see Steve Wilkins get Adoree on the bus. Keith, the bus stop is that way, bud. Ollie, ranking alone tells the story. We've got young corners I'd rather develop than a declining vet. And buy, not buy. BYE, not BUI. By Kieran there.
We get you, Kieran. We get you. It's a little bit confusing, we know, but we get you. Buy our bus. Get on the bus.
Bus, yeah. Bus. It's a unanimous bus, isn't it? Let's be honest.
100%. On the bus, Adoree. All right, Shane, I think we all know who you're going to talk about.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about my boy, 2-6 Saquon Barkley. Obviously taken second overall, and that decision split opinion at the time. And to be honest with you, it's gone all the way through his career. And probably even there, you'll get some people who, you know, say, yeah, it was a good pick. He was worth that in terms of his talent. I'm not saying the positional sense was right, but in terms of talent, you know, and you know, I think it's something that I'll just rumble on for many years to go as well. But you know, he has during his 6 years been our best weapon, bar the 1 year where he had the injury. He's totaled 5,325 rushing yards, 37 rushing touchdowns, 2,177 receiving yards with 12 receiving touchdowns and 8 total fumbles. More than likely would have cleared 7,500 rushing yards if it had not been for the injury seasons. Obviously in 2020, where he tore his ACL, and in 2019, 2021, he just kind of struggled with like niggling ankle sprains that cost him a combined of 9 games. Now is expected Saquon was amongst the top offensive performers at the Giants this past season. Looking at how he fared against his fellow running backs, it's slightly lesser showing. However, he did miss 3 games. Through his 962 rushing yards was only good enough for 16th best. And his 719 yards after contact was 6th highest in the league. There's comments come out recently from different people, Tommy DeVito, Kayvon Thibodeau, and I know it got people talking on social media as it does. They think he should pay the man, and Barkley himself has said numerous times, I want to be a Giant for life. The big decision is all going to be down to Joe Shane, though, and I suppose it's going to come down to how he values him combined with what Saquon's asking for now. I know he has changed agents. I think he's fully gone on towards the deadline of the tag. I think he signed, brought a new agency on board, and I think he's got rid of his old agency completely. If I've read it right somewhere, someone could quote me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that it sounds really bad now. But that bird that he had as his agent, she's gone, and I think he's gone with like. I know I said it sounded bad, so that's why I just. I can't remember what her name is. I just remember it was a bird like, and I'm sure she's gone now, and he's replaced her with somebody else. So hopefully that's a good sign, because you only got to listen to Chris Bisignano from the Giants Inside, our friend of the pod, and he said numerous times last year that he felt the agent that he had at the time was the sticking point, and he said himself that he gets a feeling that Joe Shane started to get a little frustrated with his old agency company. So maybe that's a positive sign. But thank you, Kim Moyle. Yeah, Kim. She's gone as far as I'm aware. So yeah, Craig, what do you think about 2-6? Are you going to break my heart on Valentine's?
God, talk about a loaded question, Jesus. It's so difficult. Like this is probably the worst. We knew that last season there was a potential it could happen, but all signs pointed to he'd be back, and he was probably not in the way that he wanted to be. This time, something seems a bit different. The only time I can remember something like this affecting my thought process as much was when Odell went. This kind of seems like the biggest one since then. And for me, I want Saquon back. I do. And I think that he understands what he needs to do financially to come back. I think Joe Shane understands what the ballpark is going to be that he's going to be looking for. And I do think he will be back. There are other options out there. Josh Jacobs is a potential free agent. Obviously, this is all subject to franchise tagging. Derrick Henry's out there. There are multiple.
Don't stop it with the Titans already. Come on.
I could make it worse. Tony Pollard's out there.
Stop
it. But you've got all those players. Josh Jacobs obviously had some incredible years. So did Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's a little bit older, but I'd just like to see Saquon back. Everything that he's put up with in this franchise, and what you look at the stats that he recorded, yards after contact, the 9th best in the league with an O-line that we had. That just shows that he's being hit so early, but he's able to get through. Look what happened when we went running back by committee. Unless we get somebody really good in, I don't want to see running back by committee. There's another running back we're going to talk about later, and I will tell you a spoiler. Get him on the bus already. Like I'm not even arguing about him coming back. But Barkley, for me, I'd like to see him back.
It's a no-brainer that Saquon Barkley comes back for me. Granted, obviously, there's been a lot of talk whether he was, whether picking him second overall was the right move. He's, like you said, he's had that throughout his whole career. But the proof is in the pudding, and he's been the biggest weapon we've had on offense since he was drafted. It's interesting you talk about the Odell deal that obviously when he was let go to Cleveland. Odell was all about Odell, Odell was all about growing his brand. His brand was probably more important to him than whether he's playing for the Giants, whether he's playing for the Browns, whether he could have gone to, the Chargers, he could have gone to the Broncos, could have gone to any other team, but it was all about his brand. Barkley's not all about that. Barkley, he's got his own brand, don't get me wrong, but you just get the feeling that he just wants to play football, and he clearly enjoys playing football in New York. And he's come out and said, he wants to be a Giant for life, and we want him to be a Giant for life. Don't get me wrong. I think again it depends on the money, but in all honesty, he's never going to get anywhere near what Christian McCaffrey's got in at San Francisco. We know that for a fact. That's not going to happen. He can't expect that to happen because he's not currently at the standard that Christian McCaffrey is at. If you look at the season McCaffrey just had, I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal. It helps that the San Francisco offense was phenomenal as well. So he can't expect to get that sort of money. Yes, he could be as good as McCaffrey, but he's not proven that he's as good as McCaffrey this last season, probably even the season before that as well. So money-wise, around, he was what? How much was he offered during the season last year? Was it like 13 a year? He's probably not even going to get that. And he probably wishes he would have taken that, but it wasn't. He obviously wasn't right at the time, so it happens. But I think 11, 12 a year, I'd be more than happy to sign him up for that and have 2-6 back for at least another 2, maybe even 3 years, because God knows we need the help on offense, and God knows we need him in the backfield because he is a game changer. So yeah. Buy.
I think as well, unlike McKinney, I'm not saying you're going to get a hometown discount, but I personally think the best option that we might have is that let him hit free agency. He gets an offer and he comes back to the Giants and gives us a chance to match the offer. That way he's seen what he's actually worth. And there's a little bit of respect there. He's saying, look, I want to be a Giant for life. Are you willing to match it? And then, if Joe Shane decides to say no, then to quote that old quote, what is it? Don't be sad it's over, be happy that it happened or something. I think that worst case scenario we say, Quan.
And it's interesting you say that because there are a lot of inputs on X where people have said a gentleman's agreement would be the kind of thing that Barkley would be happy with. And then he could potentially, like you said, go out, find out what his value is, come back to the Giants and say, look, this is what I'm getting offered. If you just give me that little bit extra, I'm back. And I do think, in a way, he might be slightly disappointed with what he does get offered out there. I think that could happen. There's a lot of people who are saying exactly what I would expect. Love him, great guy, good player, can't pay what he wants, nor should we. Reluctant goodbye. Buy if the money's right. Do not tag again. Can't see that doing much in the locker room. I don't think they'll tag him again. I don't think anyone has said that they will tag him again. I just feel like, again, there's another gentleman's agreement. Would love for it to be a buy. Can't see it happening. I'm not overpaying for him. The tag is around 11.5, so anything around that, be happy. If the price is right, no brainer. Hi, Becca. Literally just seen Becca's thing on X itself. In fact, anybody on X, go and find Becca's account from today. She's been doing Valentine's cards with our players, and they are absolutely phenomenal, and they absolutely kill me. And the fact that DeVito, JMS, Tay Banks, and Bobby O have all seen the ones she's made for them and kind of have reacted is amazing as well. So there's some cracking ones out there. And then, Kieran says our office gives me the fear without him.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see him back. I think, in all honesty, I think he probably will. There's a good possibility that he could come back, but it's just got to be for the right money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could talk about Barkley all day, all evening.
We had a pod on him
Realistically, couldn't
last
we?
year.
Yeah,
We had a whole pod on him last year.
yeah, and a lot of what we said last year probably still rings true this year as well. He's that weapon that we need on offense. We've got a lot of young guys on offense that they need that experienced head to sort of guide them and lead them, and I think our offense is worse off without him than we are with him. And I think if we are sticking with Daniel Jones next year in 2024, Barkley needs to be there, because although there may be other backs available in free agency. Yes, there may be, obviously we've got the likes of Eric Gray, who's young and up and coming, but he's going into his second season. Yes, there's potentially, backs we could pick up in the draft. Yeah, but none of them are Saquon Barkley.
No.
And it for me, it's a no-brainer. You sign him. You give him the deal. You might not necessarily give him the deal that he wants, but you give him the deal you feel that he's worth. And if he declines that, then that's up to him, But I think give him the deal that he's worth and get him signed up and put it all to bed, and let's move on with 2024. In my opinion.
Cool. Let's roll through the rest, I guess.
Yeah, let's. A'Shawn Robinson, Craig.
Yep. So A'Shawn saw his snap count increase substantially after the trade of Leonard Williams to the Seahawks, and despite scoring low in overall defensive grade and run defense grade, the interior defensive lineman came up big once he got going. This is evidenced by his high rankings in tackles and defensive stops, which both ranked in the top 10, despite A'Shawn playing on average 315 snaps fewer than those around him. The Giants' run defense has been an Achilles heel for years, and even though that didn't really change a lot this season, A'Shawn is kind of one of the reasons it didn't capitulate as we got into the latter half of the season. The Giants do have Jordan Riley and Nunez Rochez under contract. Nunez Rochez does have an out in his contract at the end of this season. I did post a question to Dan Duggan on The Athletic about this, and he said that he couldn't see that happening. It was more likely that it would be the end of next season that the Giants would look at Nacho's contract. So we could still look to extend Robinson if he is on the cheap. And the other person I've got on my list here is Ben Bredesen. So Bredesen has been with the Giants for 3 years, lined up at centre, left guard and right guard, recording over 200 snaps at each position. Most of his centre and right guard snaps, though, did come in this past season. This season's carousel probably hindered him more than it's helped, and it's kind of reflected in the stats you can see on screen. 1,107 pass blocking snaps. He allowed 7 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, 53 hurries. But, the majority of those did come this past season in 2023. As just mentioned, Bredesen was moved all around the line due to his injury crisis, and due to this inconsistency. You can see he ranks around the bottom at nearly all of the major metrics: PFF grade, pass block grade, pressures allowed, sacks allowed. He also gave up a team high 39 pressures, as well as a team high 8 penalties as well. So, if we look at the outlook for Bredesen, offensive line projects to be very different this upcoming season. New coach, that could mean a complete reset for anyone no longer under contract. Bredesen's versatility, can't say that word, could be his saving grace, though.
I mean, yeah. I think for me, A'Shawn, I like A'Shawn Robinson. I think he's got championship winning experience. He plays he can play nasty as well. He's a great run stuffer. He's not perfect, but he can play. He's aggressive. And
You're ruining my question at the end, Dan.
Go on. Sorry, I thought you'd asked a question already. My apologies.
There's no question. You're ruining my question.
Oh, go on.
Shane's got 2 more, and we've got a magical pick, and now we're spoiling it for all the listeners.
I'll shut up then.
So the next player to going to talk about is Isaiah Hodgins, who wide receiver, 26 years old. He had a tough year last year, to be fair, after obviously getting picked off Bill's practice squad the year before, and we kind of thought we'd found a bit of a hidden gem. He kind of got lost in the wide receiver shuffle last season. He finished with 275 receiving snaps, which was 283 less than Slayton and 113 less than rookie Jalen Hyatt. Bit of poor quarterback play and the declining snaps. Hodgins had less yards than his 8 games showing the season before. His 230 yards was 9th on the Giants and 110th across all receivers. One thing he can cling to, though, is he got 3 touchdowns, which was the 3rd most on the Giants roster, which sounds appalling when you say it out loud, I guess. Let's not beat around the bush. That's shocking. But obviously, with Hodgins being a restricted free agent, it's likely he will sign with the Giants again. But if the Giants do pick up a premium receiver in free agency or in the top end of the draft, there's a chance he could find himself at the bottom end of the receiver depth chart. And then lastly, he's a wide receiver, Gunnar. Still don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I'm not even going to attempt it. I'm not going to hurt myself. Call him a wide receiver. Yeah, that. Call him a wide receiver. He's more just a punt returner, realistically, and you know he's that's kind of what he was signed to do. All stats on the screen that you guys can see that are watching us live there from week 8 when Gunnar joined the Giants. But you know, you can see what a difference he made and where it ranked against the wider league. His 282 yards, which of course were boosted by that lung of 94, led the NFL in that time. And if you look at the whole season, it would have still been a good enough for joint 9th in the league. What kind of isn't highlighted by stats is how calm and reliable he was as a returner, which changed the Giants' fortunes in the punt and kickoff game. And obviously, he had that touchdown against the Rams, which I can't remember the last time we even had a special teams touchdown, return touchdown. If the Giants want to finally have some consistency in the return game and shore up what has been a rogue position since 2016, then re-signing Gunnar is a must. With a new special teams coordinator coming in, there's hopefully going to be an improvement across the board. I mean, it's going to take a lot for it to get any worse, but you know, we keep thinking that about the O-line and look what happens. But, you know, a good returner is a pretty good starting point in that regard.
So, out of the... I'll take over and throw this to Dan first so he can finish what he started. Out of the 4 we've just spoken about, who do you think is the most important to re-sign?
Sorry, I got ahead of myself. For me, it's between 2. I mean, I started talking about Eshaun, so I'll finish about him. I think he made an impact when Big Cat left, and I think he deserves to be on the team still. I think he almost like I said, he plays aggressive, he plays dirty, he plays nasty, and he's a big boy up front, and I think we need that experience up front. Don't get me wrong, I'm not averse to bringing in a young guy. We've got what's his name, Jordan Riley as well on the D liners. So you know, there's youth and there's exciting players coming through. But I think Eshaun is one to keep for me, and the other one is Gunnar. I think for me, it's a no-brainer to keep Gunnar because the difference he made in special teams when he joined. Just that, if anything, it's for the punt return for a touchdown. I think if we can get one of them out of him a year, I'll be happy. And yeah, I think for me, it's those 2. Hodgins, meh. He had a good first half a season with us, but obviously he was trending down a little bit last year. He didn't get that much in the way of targets, and he didn't have a great season, in a full season. So Hodgins, the likelihood is he's going to be at the bottom of the depth chart. So whether he's on the team or not, I don't know. It might be all right to keep him. Hey, but there we go. But yeah, for me, Sean and Gunner are the two I would keep out of those.
Shane, what about you?
So Hodgins doesn't really bother me. I'm kind of a similar way that Dan's thinking. If I had to pick one to re-sign, though, I'll probably go for Gunner, to be honest with you, because I was quite impressed with him when he came in. You know, it's a position that's kind of not really been that great for us in regards to. I mean, I think for the last couple of draft classes, I've been eyeing up returners to draft that, you know, return in the college game that can, you know, hopefully return for us. And it's a position that's neglected, but I don't really know why it's neglected. Because if you've got a shit returner, you're gonna get shit field position every time. And I think it's something that, you know, we've neglected quite badly in free agency and in the draft. So for me, I've been impressed with Gunnar. I think he's come in and he's been absolutely spot on. Probably could have asked more from him, to be honest with you. So out of the four, Sean just misses out. So I'm going to go for Gunnar.
So interestingly, obviously, none of us are going to go for Bredesen on this because I'm the same as Shane. I'm going to go with Gunner with Sean just missing out. Hodgins is a strange one for me, and the reason that I don't go for Hodgins is just if we were to trade, for sign in free agency or draft a number one receiver, you've then got that new number one receiver, Slayton, Wandale, who's been great, Jalen Hyatt, who is there as well. Hodgins kind of just misses out because of that for me, not because of the inconsistency or the numbers he's put up, but just purely because of there will be plenty of people ahead of him. Gunner just, yeah, like Shane said, you can't do 70 plus yard drives every single time. It doesn't work like that. It's really difficult. You can't rely on your defense to set up the short field every time. You almost want your punt returner to help out in that instance, because you know he didn't take. I don't actually know if he did take any kickoffs whatsoever. I think it was mostly just punt returns. But the way that he solidified that position, which was a position of need, because we had Eric Gray and we had the Adoree Jackson incident recently over that, and as Shane said, we haven't really had anyone for years and years. As we said, Dwayne Harris, I think, was the last person to return a punt for a touchdown. So, and then if you look at like the comments, Ollie's actually said it's between Robinson and Hodgins, and he said he'd go Hodgins only just. I mean, Darren said keep Gunner. Steve said Hodgins can hop on the bus. Kieran's gone for Gunner, and Hodgins can go for the bus. And there was earlier, I think Keith said we need a specialist punt returner, so this one is a no-brainer buy. So it looks like Gunner is a firm favourite amongst the fans.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, just for his big playability and the fact that even if he return a punt 10-15 yards every time, it's better than what we'd had previously. So I'm not surprised that the majority are wanting to keep Gunner around. Bredesen, I'm not bothered either way. I think he's a decent guard, but I mean, our O-line needs way more attention than what one person can give. So, losing Bredesen wouldn't be the end of the world. So, yeah, Sean and Gunner buy for me, and Hodgins and Bredesen get on the bus. There we go. On the bus. All right, then we are going to move on to those that have contributed and could find themselves back at MetLife. First up on offense, we've got Tyrod Taylor and Justin Pugh. Straight off the couch, Justin Pugh. Let's start off with Tyrod then. Well, last season, he saw more of the field than anyone anticipated. And overall, he actually made the Giants weirdly exciting towards the end of the season. We beat the Eagles, with Tyrod Taylor under center. He sometimes, he puts himself in harm's way, he gets himself injured. He's got those glass ribs that everyone talks about. And don't get me wrong, we had that DeVito mania in the middle of his 2 stints under center as well. He led the Giants in most metrics apart from passing touchdowns, and his big time throw rate of 8.9 was almost double of Daniel Jones and Tommy DeVito as well combined. His 1,341 yards, 5 passing touchdowns, 197 rushing yards, and 17 big time throws were his most since 2017 when he was with Buffalo. And now, if the Giants if the Giants decide they aren't going to draft a quarterback, which is kind of looking increasingly likely, they'll need a competent backup behind Daniel Jones. And although he's shown that he can be that competent backup, he's not getting any younger. And those injury issues that have plagued his career aren't going to go away. Full well at some point when Tyrod Taylor comes on that field, he's going to be injured. He's going to go down. He's going to be attended to by the trainers and potentially leave the game. So, it's a toss-up for Tyrod Taylor for me. You've then got Justin Pugh, left guard, Mr. Straight off the couch. Obviously had that ACL tear in 2022. He was on the pod last year, told us at the beginning of September that week 1 as a return was unlikely. Week 6 was when he returned to the Giants, and he was one of the only mainstays on that injury-ravaged offensive line last year. And like Bredesen earlier, he played multiple positions. It wasn't an easy or the best of returns for him, though. He gave up 8 sacks, which was a career high, and 27 hurries, which was the most since his rookie year. Now, he came in and gave the line that veteran presence that it desperately needed. And his impact on the field may not have panned out the way we wanted it to, but his impact on it can't be understated. We do, however, think that it's likely that this is his final swan song. Return probably isn't likely, but it's not out of the question. We do desperately still need help on the offensive line, and they might look at him to be that experienced head and that sort of the person there that can guide and help others as well. But what do you guys reckon of Tyrod and Justin Pugh? Do you see either of them staying around?
I think Justin's probably going to be the more likely out of them all. I think Tyrod, again, he's another one who might be a little bit annoyed at the organisation, obviously because he came back off IR and wasn't given the starting job that, Dable come out and said we're going to roll with Tommy DeVito still, which I think did have some frustration for Tyrod Taylor. Plus, I think when you throw in how many quarterbacks this season got injured and how many backups were used, the backups prices have probably increased by about 5 or 6 million, which is probably 5 or 6 million that we can't afford to pay extra towards Tyrod to keep him. And I think in regards to Justin, we've said it before, not just because we've had him on the pod and we got the opportunity to meet him when we went over to the States, but he has brought that kind of leadership to the O-line that has been missing. In all fairness, he's got that experience. He's brought the O-line in a bit closer, going out for meals, etc. There is some bias there. I do like him, so I do hope that he gets an opportunity to sort of stay for another year and help grow that offensive line room.
I agree with the Tyrod thing. I do think he maybe prices himself out of a return. He kind of did show that he can still do it when he's kind of called upon. I think it's no secret that I was his biggest detractor from the podcast across the season. I wasn't happy with some of the things that he did to put himself in harm's way during. And I just feel like maybe it's the best move for the organisation to kind of move on. Pugh, I think it's his decision more than it would be ours or Joe Shane's decision. I think it totally comes down to the man himself. His wife's just given birth to their first child quite recently, so congratulations to him for that. But that could see him maybe take a different outlook on things this upcoming season and maybe go, hey, you know what? I came back from a big injury. He did say that if he would only return to the Giants. I think if the Giants weren't interested in him, he will retire. I do kind of feel like that's the way that one's going to go.
Yeah, I think for me they're both on the bus.
Yeah,
I think there's better backups out there for less money. So Tara's on the bus, and Justin, ride off into the sunset, my friend. Get on that bus. All right, Shane, defensive side then. Who we got?
Yeah, so first up, Jihad Ward, 30 years old. He had a promising first season with the Giants, and he kind of re-signed. He's a little bit of a Winks guy, and he got his second contract last year, but it didn't quite work out the way we really wanted. He had 661 snaps, which were slightly more than 200. I wouldn't say 221 then. Slightly more than 2021 even. But his production was a little bit more ropier. He finished with 14 tackles, which was 18 less than 2023. 6 missed tackles and a PFF defensive grade of a 42.4, which was the 4th worst on the Giants. The one plus he did add was that he recorded a career high 5 sacks, but he didn't actually get one registered until week 11. Now, his biggest supporter, Whit Martindale, is now gone, so the Giants will have to decide if the valuable experience that Ward brings to the edge room is worth him being re-signed, or do they opt to move on from him. And then the next one is Isaiah Simmons, 26 years old. Obviously, we brought him in last off season for a 7th round pick from the Arizona Cardinals. Played a career low 377 defensive snaps, but the production was kind of there more in a pass set rather than the run D set. He played in 17 games, 4 starts, and recorded 50 tackles, 33 solo, a sack, a forced fumble, and a pick 6 that sealed victory against the Commanders. Obviously with Isaiah Simmons, we all know what he is in terms of an athlete, but it's his football production that's kind of held him back. You wouldn't think that he was a first rounder, in all fairness. I think if you're honest in the way he's performed with Arizona and with ourselves. Now, we would have been earmarked for that linebacker spot next to a Kerike, but Michael McFadden had a great season. If McFadden was to suddenly decline, the Giants will only have Beavers and Deontay Johnson at the minute on the roster that could step in. It begs a question: would they be stupid to not sound out Isaiah Simmons and bring him back on a 1 year?
Yeah, exactly. Agreed. Special teams up next. Nick McLeod, despite playing over 250 snaps less than he did in 2022, McLeod was still a solid rotational piece in the backfield. His 78.2 PFF grade was the 4th highest on the Giants, and he only allowed an 83.9 NFL passer rating when targeted. His biggest contribution, however, was on special teams, where his performances in the punt game almost saw him named to the Pro Bowl after he did win the fan vote. Like Hodgins, McLeod is a restricted free agent, so the likelihood of him re-signing is high. He's performed well when needed on special teams, and with the Giants' cornerback room likely to need extra depth due to a certain Adoree going onto the bus, McLeod can help fill that void since he's been arguably as good as him when called upon. Big play Darnay, another cornerback who's predominantly played on special teams in 2023. Holmes' defensive production took a hit due to limited snaps. However, he did record back-to-back games with an interception in weeks 10 and 11. On special teams, however, his 5 tackles were the second most on the team, and like McLeod, was a solid gunner on punt returns. Holmes' 4-year stint with the Giants is probably more a threat, though, than McLeod's due to how little they have relied on him on the defensive side. Whether this is due to the flaws that he hasn't improved on since being drafted or his knack of being flagged is to be seen, but this is likely the end for the 25-year-old. And finally, in the contributors group, Casey Kreiter, friend of the pod. It's kind of hard to grade a position that suffers from the mantra of the less you hear, the better it's going. One thing you can rely on with Kreiter is that he's an ever-present, never missing a game due to injury since joining the Giants. There were no questionable snaps in 2023, and his 4 solo tackles on special teams was a career high for the man. He also has already started back in the gym. If you follow him on X, he is posting daily pictures of him doing his workouts. And like he said when we interviewed him pre-season last year, he doesn't train any differently to any of the other players. He's still going for it as much as he possibly can. If you look at the outlook for Kreiter, one thing you can't buy: chemistry. And after multiple seasons together, Kreiter, Gillen, and Gano have it. And for me, that's more than enough to warrant him coming back next season. So, Dan, out of the 7, which will be the biggest shock if they are re-signed, and which will be the biggest shock if they aren't?
Biggest shock if they weren't re-signed would be Casey Kreiter, because it's virtually a guarantee that he comes back, right? Because why do you need to sign another long snapper when this guy's good enough? Clearly good enough. I mean, also I'd be surprised if Isaiah Simmons and Nick McLeod don't come back. I'd be very surprised if neither of them come back. I think the biggest shock to come back would, for me, be Tyrod. If he was to re-sign, I would be very, very surprised. Purely because, like I said, there are better backup quarterbacks. Or I say there are better. There are backup quarterbacks out there. There are just as good. That are younger and can stay healthy longer. And so, yeah, for me, the biggest shock to come back would be Tyrod.
Shane, what about you, mate?
Yeah, I think I would agree on the Casey Kreiter. He doesn't really put much of a step wrong, and kind of when we had him on the pod in the off season last season, he mentioned that the little bit of a mess up that he made in the Tennessee game, and it kind of got on top of him. So even when he does make these little mistakes that we don't really pick up on, I remember when he said about the Tennessee thing, I was like, no, nothing stands out to me immediately. Like, it wasn't that much of a bad thing, but he's probably such a perfectionist that it played on his mind a little bit more than it probably did someone like ourselves. So I think that's why I bring him back, because he doesn't put a step wrong, but when he does, he's quite harsh on himself, and he wants to make sure that it doesn't happen again, and apologise to teammates, etc. And that's the kind of player that you want on your team, especially at the long snapper position. And then in regards of surprise to be back, I kind of got a 2-part answer to this. So number one, it'd be Tyrod, because if he's back, I imagine that means we've paid him a decent amount, which would surprise me. But I think in terms of the player themselves, I'd be surprised if Haddy came back, to be honest with you. I think his ties were to Wink. I think he was more loyal to Wink than he is to the Giants, so to speak. And yeah, I just think that there's going to be better edge players available in free agency.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of on the same kind of idea as you two. So yeah, Kreiter, it doesn't make sense. We always say the best ability is availability, and that's exactly what he's given us since he's been with us. And then the chemistry thing kind of plays into that as well. So I know they took a punt on a long snapper. Was it Cameron Lyons? Cam Lyons at the beginning of pre-season last year. They could do that again just in case. Kreiter's 34, which pains me to say because I know we're above that, Dan. And you say, 34, is he starting to get a bit older?
He's getting on a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Must be 34, you're coming into your prime, believe me.
There you go.
So, we are, as we get older, more susceptible to injuries. So maybe there's an insurance policy, but I'd expect him to be back. I can't see any reason not. And I've got to agree about Haddy. I think the no Wink Martindale thing will count against him. He's also quite an outspoken member of the locker room, and that could potentially count against him as well when it comes to trying to rebuild what seems to have been a bit of a fractious behind the scenes this year.
I think.
So yeah,
I think on the buy or the bus, I think the only ones I'm buying are Simmons, McLeod, and Kreiter. All the rest are on the bus.
Yeah, and probably agreed. So
that's 4 on the bus, so that makes some more room on the roster. All right, on to those that could be or are probably on their way out. Shane, over to you, mate.
Could be or should be, one or the other. So I'm going to rattle through these. I've just got 3 here. So first one is Paris Campbell. I know some of you might be saying who. Yeah, we signed him in free agency apparently last off season, gave him a ridiculous contract with loads of incentives that unsurprisingly he didn't meet. It didn't work out for him in any sense whatsoever. In the 12 games he played before he was a healthy scratch, he managed a mere 104 yards on 20 receptions. He struggled to impact games and couldn't generate extra yards after the catch and was absolutely shite. Next up, Lawrence Cager, 27 years old, tight end. Cage's role in 2022 could be described as limited. Then his 2023 role was non-existent. Barely scraping over the 100 snap mark on offense. Cage was targeted 5 times, had 4 receptions though for 36 yards and a touchdown. And then have I missed one? Yeah, Matt Breeder. Sorry, Craig. I know you highlighted them all. I was like, I've got 3, but there's only 2 there. Where's the one gone? Matt Breeder, 29 years old. Breeder has come in and done an okay job when he's been called upon, but he just doesn't have the intangible qualities to replace Barkley. And he's just not as. I don't want to use the word flashy because that's not the word I'm looking for. He's not got those big play moments that Saquon does have. And kind of regardless of what happens with Barkley, I don't think any of us are bringing Matt Breeder back.
No. I just want to have with Breeder as well. If he's coming in on third, say it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, I'm not confident he's making it.
No.
And for me, a backup running back, potentially a 3rd down back, you want to be confident they're going to make it on a 3rd and 1, 2 or 3, and I'm not confident he's making it. So there we go. I get the joys of covering the offensive line. No, I'm not a guru, but I get the joys of covering the offensive line. Tyree Phillips, it was a mid-season return to the Giants for him. He signed off the Eagles practice squad. He was pretty much a mainstay at right tackle, performing much better than the man he replaced, Evan Neal. Unfortunately, he tore his quad in the LA Rams game in week 17 and will likely be out for 4 to 6 months. And it's a massive shame for him because he was performing really quite well in that right tackle position. Next up, Shane Lemieux. I mean, the fact that we barely mentioned his name on this podcast last season shows that Shane Lemieux had no part to play really in the 2023 Giants. As a rookie, he played 12 games in 2020, but since then he's only suited up for 6 games in 3 years. Get on the bus, mate. His 2023 preseason was quite strong, but he played in weeks 3 and 4, tore his bicep and ended his season and likely his Giants career as well. Matt Pert, right tackle, 27, is another offensive lineman with injury concerns and missed a big chunk of the season. He played sporadically on the offense for the first 4 weeks and then he injured his shoulder and missed the next 11. He did come back for the Rams and Eagles games to finish off the season and played fairly well, only allowing 2 pressures in 63 pass blocking snaps. So there is hope for Matt Pert yet. And lastly, Sean Harlow. Yes, there is a player on the Giants named Sean Harlow. Who knew? He was with the Giants in training camp and signed in October after injuries started to pile up. Injuries are piling up that soon. He played 16 offensive snaps in total. He allowed 1 hurry and was flagged for a false start as well. Fairly unlikely to be back. Might be another practice squad body, but there we go. Out of all them 4, are you bringing any of them back?
I wasn't anticipating this question yet.
I just wanted to throw it in there. Are you bringing any of them back?
It's all going to race in time. Mistake Matt Breeder.
I just want to throw it in there. Are there any of them coming back?
Yeah, I would. I'd bring Tyree Phillips back, to be honest with you. I thought he played really well whenever Neil was missing. And I was actually really good for him that he got injured, to be honest, because he got injured right at the worst point, like week 17, I think you said. He might not even be back for next season, in all honesty. I'd bring Tyree Phillips back, and I hope the Giants can come. The Giants are a classy organisation, let's be honest. So I'm hoping that come to some sort of like agreement with Tyree where, he gets a 1-year deal, he can rehabilitate with the Giants, and who knows? I mean, by the time Tyree Phillips is back, Evan Neal might be flipping hamburgers.
Or a guard.
All right, Craig, I'll let you finish off.
So Benton Whitley is that's probably the most British sounding name we've had on the Giants for a while. Benton Whitley. Right, signed off the Vikings practice squad in November. Bentley
Killing me.
Bentley appeared in 3 games between weeks 12 and 15. In that time, he had 1 batted pass and a fumble recovery on special teams. He's an exclusive rights free agent, so as long as the Giants offer a qualifying offer of 1-year contract at the league minimum salary based on experience, which is $870,000, he'll likely be back as a depth piece. And then the 2 kickers, Randy Bullock signed to the practice squad early November. Bullock came in to replace Gano, who headed to IR. Randy played in 5 games, making all 10 of his extra point attempts and 5 of 6 field goals, missing a 48-yarder against the Packers. In late December, he suffered a hamstring injury, ending his time with the Giants. And on to the 4th kicker of the Giants season for last year. Crosby came in to replace Bullock and Cade York, who were both injured. Crosby appeared in the final 3 games of the season, making 6 of 7 extra points and 5 of 7 field goals. One of each of those missed field goals would be costly. One of each of those would be costly, as a missed extra point and a missed 54-yard field goal condemned the Giants to the 26-25 loss against the Rams. So out of everybody on that list, Dan, is there a person you would like back?
Yeah, I think Tyree Phillips probably the only one.
Shane, anyone else other than Tyree Phillips on that? I mean, Big Bad Paris Campbell?
Nah, that can all foxtrot Oscar as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Pert and Lawrence Cager were back in one form or the other, whether it's practice squad or whatever. I wouldn't be surprised.
Matt Pert, I could handle. Lawrence Cager, no. I don't feel like he's really contributed in any way. He missed blocks. He is a poor man's Darren Waller.
He is, but for some reason, I just think the coaches like him.
I do like Cager most, but I think it depends on what you're asking him to do. That's the thing. Like Craig, if you're asking him to block, then no, thank you. If he's just out there purely as a receiving entity, then why not? And I think the thing you got to remember as well, all the players we've spoken about, the Giants have only got so much money. The Giants have only got so many draft picks. Some of the players that we've said get on the bus, whether it be any of us three or any of our listeners, they're more than likely going to be coming back in some degree because we cannot afford to cut 30 players, for instance, or 20 or whatever it is when you need a 53-man roster, especially with the curse that we seem to have in terms of injuries.
Yeah. Agreed.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. All right, we've got any more? Yeah, we've got a few more, haven't we? Who's going to run us out? Is it you, Craig?
It's Shane.
Or is it you, Shane? It's Shane. Yeah, it's Shane. Go on, round us out, Shane.
So the best of the rest. So we've got three players. First of all, JC Hassanauer, 29-year-old centre, Jared Davis, 30-year-old linebacker, and Wyatt Davis, 25-year-old left guard. Those three players didn't have any snaps across the season. They all spent the season on IR after getting injured in pre-season. Hassanauer tore his tricep. Jared Davis suffered a knee injury that needed surgery. And Wyatt Davis had an ankle sprain for the whole season.
Okay, so let's talk about this because I did the research on this. Yes, Wyatt Davis had a high ankle sprain at the beginning of the season and was put on IR. And I think when you're putting on IR that early, it's season ending.
For a high ankle sprain. Interesting.
Oh. What? He should have been cut, man. Ankle sprain. Anyway, on to the other players. Cade York, 23-year-old kicker. He was signed to the active roster on November the 3rd. He was waived to the practice squad on November the 22nd and started getting ready to replace Bullock on December 18th. Then by December 22nd, he was on IR with a quad injury. That's a lot. That's a busy 6 weeks. He's already had visits with the Jags and the Titans, so he's gone. Scott Coughlin and Cam Bray, both linebackers, they were kind of the mainstays of the special teams unit in 2023. Don't think either of them are going to be back. I think they've both released goodbye posts on social media, indicating they're going to be looking for an opportunity to contribute on defense rather than special teams. Good luck with that one. And then Sterling Shepard, 31-year-old wide receiver. Now, we're not going to go into depth about Sterling. We've done it numerous times, and it's a bit of a shame that he's been degraded to being in the rest category. Like, at least we could have put him in on their way, Craig. Bloody hell, like, you've done him dirty here. But yeah, you know, we will miss Shep, and we're not going to go into it again like we have done before. It looks like he's undecided on his future, but it's highly unlikely he's going to be with the Giants though next season.
I apologise to Sterling Shepard in advance for doing him dirty.
I mean, to put him amongst like Cade York and JC Hassanauer and Jared Davis and Wyatt Davis, I mean, it's a bit of an insult. But
stay on IR for one season because of an ankle twist. Fucking, Sterling deserves better than that, man. I tell you.
What is Wyatt Davis? Is Wyatt Davis your new nemesis after that, Shane?
Honestly, trust me. Today I'm 33. 4 things talking off the rails. We need to wrap. I can easily go off on one. Believe me, it's been 3 weeks.
He's twisted ankle and he's out for the season. Good lads. Yeah, I mean, we've been there with Shep, like we said, so we won't go into any more. But I'm not. He's on his way out, isn't he? Let's face it. All right, yeah. Well, there's our free agents for this 2024 season. I think all of those we've just talked about, bar a couple, in Tari Phillips and potentially one more. All the rest of them would likely be on the bus. So, you know, Keith, your bus is full, mate. So you're driving off somewhere else and drop them all off at different stops. So yeah, let us know what you think. Let us know whether you agree with us on whether we'd get rid of them, whether we'd re-sign them. Let us know in comments. Let us know in on X. And, you know, thanks for all the interaction this evening. But unfortunately, that is all we've got time for this week. We'll be back at the same time, same place, next Wednesday, 8:30 p.m, as we start to build our wish list in the lead up to free agency, looking at some potential targets that we think Joe Shane and Brian Dable should be aiming for. Plus, we'll have the return of our mock draft tracker as well, with Shane and Kev giving their expert opinions on who their top analysts have gone for in their latest mocks. Anything else to add before we go, guys?
It's just been really good being back on again. Obviously, looking towards the 2024 season now, free agency, draft. Then if I'm doing a spoiler here, have we spoke about what's coming in terms of draft?
No, we haven't.
All we'll say is that hotels have been booked somewhere for some of us. You know, it's coming up to the business end of the season, or the off season for me and Kev. As I say, you know, that we always love the draft stuff. I think we're going to be covering onto our top fives, which could be worth absolutely gold or could be worth absolutely nothing. But yeah, it's been good being back, and you know, good chatting to you guys and to the interactions we get as always from the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun to kick off the off season by looking at the players that are going to go and seeing who's there. And as we rightly said, there'll probably be a few that we've said sayonara to that will end up being on our positional breakdowns in 4 or 5 months' time before the season starts. So, and we'll end up having to eat humble pie, saying, "Oh yeah, no, Matt Breeder, welcome back." Let's hope.
Oh, Matt Breeder, I think he can do a job. You know, I think he can hit balls really well.
But just before we go, I just wanted to kind of bring attention to an X post that we put up yesterday in response to something that's happened in the NFL UK fans group on Facebook. Yesterday, it was brought to our attention from the British and Irish Eagles fan page that the NFL UK group, someone had posted about an LGBTQ plus. You have to forgive
That's
me.
the
I
one.
can't remember. But essentially, somebody had posted in there about whether there was an NFL group for those people, and they were ridiculed in the comments, and the British and Irish Eagles kind of made aware to the rest of us what had happened, and they just wanted to reiterate that they stood by it. And we put a post out that was written by myself, and I wholeheartedly stand by it. I don't care what gender you are, what you identify as, what race you are, your religion, who you decide to love. As long as you love the Giants, there will always be a place here for you. There will always be a place in our comment section, on X, on our Facebook page. I know the UK Giants fans, or the Giants fans UK page, posted something quite similar. And I just wanted to reiterate that on this post, that, you know, we will not stand for prejudice. We won't stand for hate against anybody. And if anybody would like to reach out and talk to us about, you know, anything to do with the Giants and the LGBTQ plus, then feel free to do so. Our DMs will be open.
100%. The fact that I think in this day and age, somebody's had to ask if there is a UK NFL LGBTQ plus group. You know, we are all one big family. The fact that that person has then been ridiculed for asking that question is disgusting. And if anyone that does watch or listen to this podcast has ridiculed that person for asking that question, please don't tune into the next episode, because we don't want you listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, because there is no room in this world for hate of any kind, shape, form, whatever it is, whether you're, you know, your sexual orientation, your race, your gender, your religion, whatever it is. We are one big Giants family here. And anybody, any person is welcome to listen and watch along with us, unless you are one of those minority that decide and think it's appropriate and acceptable to show hate and to basically be an absolute dickhead and think it's acceptable to to show any form of hate or any form of prejudice or anything like that towards anyone in that community. So wholeheartedly agree with that, and props to you, Craig, for putting that post up yesterday, because I loved it. I think it was really, really well said. And on that note, yeah, we are a big Giants family. We're here throughout the off season. We are going to be here every week. There is a lot to look forward to. Shane might have given a little bit of a teaser there, saying hotel rooms booked. There's a lot to look forward to. So, stick with us. Make sure you tune in every week to see the latest updates and notifications, and be notified on when we're due to go live. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the bell if you like any of this or any of our videos. Give us a thumbs up and give it a nice little share as well. Feel free to give us a rating on your podcast platform of choice too. Once again, obviously, with what's happened in Kansas City this evening, our thoughts do go out to those that are affected by it, and hopefully the situation has resolved itself. And unfortunately, the minority again decide that it's acceptable to commit these heinous acts, and let's hope the justice system over there in the US is just, and these people, face the punishment they truly deserve. So yeah, unfortunately, these things happen in the world. It's sad, but there's not much we can do about it. But yeah, our thoughts go out to those affected by it. But as ever, it's a great evening. It's been great this evening, guys. My thanks as ever go to you both for joining me, and to you, the viewers and listeners, for tuning in. We are signing off. Until next time, let's go Giants.